it's very unusual for a lot of people over here to see an evangelical pastor meeting with multiple rabbis and us getting along because we believe 90% of the same thing. There's some things that we're going to disagree with, but as far as the Old Testament is concerned, we're spot on. We believe.
Wow. So why don't you take that logic and apply it to other people, other cultures? Can't you find similarities between you and Islam? No? Why not?
The exact same stuff. We just come about it at a different angle. But
the same could be said about Islam. So what's your hang up, Greg? Why this literal fetish with Jewish people, but hatred for Muslims? It's bizarre.
We also have the same landing spot. And I think if we can have dialogue like this, both here and there, it's going to help Israel a ton.
Except doing a good media. What else can we do? Maybe strategically, maybe like on the ground.
Try not killing kids. I mean, I've said this a couple of times, but start there and see how it goes. Don't kill children wantonly and indiscriminately. Don't have this thing among the military, this culture where you shoot a different body part of a child every day. On Monday, you shoot their arms. On Tuesday, you shoot their legs. On Wednesday, you shoot their testicles. Literally, that's a thing. The doctors in the area have attested to it. Maybe don't do that. That doesn't look fantastic when you do that. Just throwing it out there.
Like the war in Gaza.
Yeah.
Let's say, if it was more brutal and the shorter war, I think
it's already brutal. About as brutal as it gets. It's pretty fucking bad.
That Israel would be doing better in the media sphere. Yeah. Because it will be short,
very
brutal, maybe deadly.
Yeah.
But people don't have really the...
You hang on, I'm sorry. You think it's not deadly right now? He says if we were more brutal in Gaza, it would be quicker. We would just literally genocide these people. What's your goal exactly? What's your goal? What are you trying to do in Gaza? Precisely. They're ethnically cleansing the Gazans, is the answer. It's ethnic cleansing, at best. And at worst, full-blown genocide, which is what I think it is. But it's absolutely undeniable that it's ethnic cleansing. I mean, that's what the Israeli leadership has said they are doing, ethnically cleansing. So it would be more brutal. What would you be doing that would make it more brutal? Exactly. How would you ethnically cleanse this area in a more brutal way? I think it's pretty obvious now. Vile, disgusting, evil, and wrong. I don't know how these people justify this shit to themselves, but it's fucking evil. Oh, there goes my ride. Sign up for my Patreon. I'd really appreciate that very much. It would mean so much to me. This is like a really precarious moment in history, in U.S. history, and for me personally, so it would mean a lot if you sign up for my Patreon. Check out cultarchive.org. I did a cult test, basically, where you can see if you're in a cult. And you can look at the historical tests of other groups that already went through this. Also, check out my merch. I have a whole bunch of really cool shirts and stuff. Really interesting. I would really appreciate that.
Short.
Very
brutal. Maybe deadly.
Yeah.
But people don't have really the patience for long wars. Even though it's not their wars. My friends got killed, not their friends. So what do they care?
Yeah.
My friend got killed, not their friends. So what do they care? I care about human suffering. I don't want any human suffering. I want as little as humanly possible. And Israel could stop all of the suffering right now. Like tomorrow, they could do it if they wanted, right now.
And that's a good point, because I think the longevity of it is what has been the bad public relations nightmare for Israel. Because, you would probably believe the same thing. I think it should have been very swift, very quick, be done, and let's get our hostages home and be done with it. I came out very strong. We had always supported Israel, and I had been invited here many times. But October the 7th, it kind of changed everything for me and for my wife, for the church, and it really emboldened us for the Jewish people. And of course,
why am I not surprised by that?
I got to see a lot of that horrific footage that, a lot of people haven't seen. But
have you seen the horrific footage of what's happening to Gazans by chance?
The longevity of drawing this thing out has not been good for Israel. And so I think Netanyahu and everybody that he's working with, I know they've said, we're going to go in, just take the whole strip. It should have been done long ago. Just get it done, stop the bleeding, and move forward. Because
you're literally talking about ethnic cleansing right now. That is what you were endorsing. Are you proud of that, Greg?
Even people can be mad politically, but biblically, Gaza will be 100% Jewish again. They should have never gave it up when they gave it up. It was the worst thing that ever happened.
Yeah, he's ready for ethnic cleansing then, it sounds to me, right? Am I reading this correctly?
The Gaza when it quit being Jewish, because they burned down all your stuff and stripping all the copper wires. And I mean, it didn't take 24 hours for the Palestinians to receive something that they said they wanted, but to disrespect it overnight. And now look at what happened. And people say, oh, look how beautiful Gaza used to be, and now it's a desolation. Well, let me tell you why Gaza was so beautiful, because Jews built it. Because Israel built Gaza to be as beautiful as it was, and then they left it. And what people don't recognize is IDF soldiers had to drag Jewish people out of their homes. See, in America, we don't understand this. They forcibly made them vacate to give the Palestinians what they wanted. And then what did they get? They got something good, turned it into something horrific, and now we're in war. And I believe Israel...
This is just bullshit. This whole thing is a bullshit lie. A vile, evil, propagandistic, disgusting fucking lie.
Should have just went in and just dealt with the whole thing quickly and swiftly. And I think because they haven't, it's a bad look.
Actually, there's something else that I heard the other week, because we are now not celebrating, but I don't remember the word. We are 20 years after the evacuation of Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
We commemorate this horrible event. And I heard from someone that was in agriculture in the Gaza Strip that he got a phone call like a month after he was evacuated from his home. And it was one of his workers, a Palestinian worker that was working for him for 10 years. So he had the expertise. He knew what he's doing. It was the same.
Yep. Super expert Palestinian guy. Go on. Get to the fucking point.
It was the same plant. Everything was the same, except that Jews didn't control the land. And he called and he said, nothing's growing. We give the...
Yeah, okay. So this expert, quote unquote, in what I have no fucking clue, says that the land stopped producing food. The farms stopped growing food because God wasn't blessing it anymore, is what you're telling me? Wow.
Same water, the same everything, and nothing grows.
Wow.
What can we do better? And it's like the old prophecy from the Bible that the land, if it wouldn't be Israeli or Jewish, it wouldn't be prosper.
100%.
This is fucking vile, dude. This guy is literally justifying a full-blown genocide. Full-blown genocide for religious reasons. What is wrong with this dude? This is insane.
And people get mad when they hear that, but it's in the Bible. You cannot change it. It's going to happen that way.
Do you know the pictures from 19th century, of Mark Twain?
Yes.
You know Mark Twain, something...
I think you said it was like a barren wasteland, no trees and no villages. And then, 77 years now since 1948, since Israel became a state, then it's just blossomed. And then it's interesting because when I found out about the fires that took place, some time ago, the American news media, of course, we're on, 9 hours difference, 8 hours difference. So the American news media got that probably about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. I think it was on a Wednesday that we got the horrible news that everything was on fire. By 4 o'clock that afternoon, I was in the air flying here because we have so many friends and people that we consider family. And so I flew here during that time. And I thought it was interesting that here's all this growth. But again, the enemies of Israel is like, we're going to take care of the growth. We're going to fix that growth, because we know that this was not some natural disaster. And
I don't actually know what he's referring to here. There were fires in Israel recently, or?
So it's like they're jealous when they see God prosper the land. And so they want the land, but they disrespect the land. And they're never going to be.
Oh, absolutely. Totally. 100%. Yeah. People are jealous of you, Greg. Right?
Be happy until there's no Jewish people whatsoever. So just burn the whole thing down.
I'm not okay with that. I don't want anything like that. I want Jews to live in the Israel area with Palestinians in concert with them. Everybody lives together in a single state and they all vote on their leaders and everything else. Fully democratic state.
And so you have these college campus students in America that are so ignorant. I fault their parents. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Number one, they don't know what river. They don't know what sea.
Okay, first of all, if people are saying that, they probably do know what that means. like exactly which river, which sea, and all of that other stuff. Secondly, I don't see why that even matters. Palestine has a right to like be free. And third, people try to turn this into a terrorist statement. It's not. It means that Palestine is going to be free. Like they're going to live free. They're going to be able to live their own lives out of the chains created for them by Israel.
And they have no idea that what that means is the eradication of Israel.
No, it does not mean that. But I'm actually in favor of eradicating the country of Israel and Palestine and creating a new country, a singular new country. Maybe name it Pisrael or Philistine or something. I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead yet. Single state solution. Single state solution. I know no one's going to be happy with that, but I'm in favor of democracy. I don't know about you or anybody else. I like democracy.
That's what that statement means. Wipe out the Jews and we will be free.
That's not what I mean when I say it. I mean, I don't say it. But the point is, that's not what everybody means. That's not what anybody means. I don't know of a single person that feels that way. When it's said, it usually means Palestine will be free.
First of all, Palestinians are more free in Israel than they would be in any other Middle Eastern country on the planet. It's the only
other than Palestine, right?
Democratic state around. And secondarily, it's predictive, it's prophetic that this land belongs to God, and these people, if you will, on the other side, they're never going to be happy until they get it. So they're never going to be happy because God's not going to give it to them. This land belongs to the Jewish people. And so the ignorance in America is nauseating because they think everybody.
This guy, of all people, says the ignorance in America is nauseating. Him.
Everybody here is oppressed and they're slaves and they're beat down and they're starving to death. Whereas again, drive through a Palestinian neighborhood if you're able to. They have big houses, lots of stuff. They've taken over. You know, people don't understand. You have 45,000 people that live inside the walls of the old city. 45,000 people. Only 10,000 are Jewish.
Okay, the old city. What do you mean? Are you talking about Jerusalem? Because Jerusalem is not controlled by Israel fully. I can only assume that's the city he's referring to, right? I think that's what he means. Jerusalem is only half controlled by Israel. Yes, of course there are Palestinian people that live in Jerusalem because it's Palestinian, partially. What are you smoking? Honestly, I'm kind of blown away by the fact that I'm kind of blown away by the fact that other Muslim countries in the region have not done more to fight against what's happening. Not that I blame them or whatever, but Saudi Arabia is very, very friendly with the United States. I would have thought that Saudi Arabia would have been opposed to the US and or Israel or whoever else because it's not, because Israel is making a mess and doing absolutely horrible things in Palestine. They have been for a very, very long time.
Right, then 10,000 Christians, and that's kind of a loose terminology. Then 25,000 Islamic people, and everybody's kind of living in peace. And when people come here, they're shocked by that. And I think that's why a lot of people won't come, because they know when they come to Israel, their narrative will be destroyed.
This is the
give it a rest, dude.
reason?
Yeah, I think it's a big reason. I think they know if they show up that they will not be able to bark the way that they're barking because they're going to find out, we've been lied to.
What's
I don't care what Israel looks like. It can be the most beautiful place on planet Earth. It's irrelevant to the fact that they're literally committing a genocide in Israel right now.
your best talking points to someone who is not a believer? You'll talk about the Bible a lot, about the prophecies a lot, but how can you mitigate those talking points to someone who doesn't believe in the Bible?
Well, just like when I get on some of these larger shows, I'll be on one.
He doesn't know how to use the word mitigate correctly, but okay.
In Las Vegas just a couple of weeks, and he wants to talk about Israel, of course. But I always let them know that not everything, but 95%
Boy, did his voice just go up an octave with that?
of everything, I let them know that not everything, but 95% of everything I say about Israel is through the lens of Scripture, through the Old Testament, right? Let's just, of course I believe in Yeshua, of course I believe in the New Testament, but let's just say the 39 books of the Old Testament, Genesis to Malachi. I tell them, look, everything I believe has to be viewed through that lens. So politically, economically, whether it's war or whatever, I have to when they have me on their shows, even as people who aren't believers, I have to let them know I'm going to always come back to the foundation of the Bible. I'm always going to come back to the Torah. I'm always going to come back to this is what the prophets said. So if they don't like that, that's kind of my rule going into it. But there's plenty of talking points even without without the Bible. And again, you can just show people what is actually happening here, but they don't want to hear that. They want to believe starvation. They want to believe genocide.
I don't want to believe that. I just have no choice but to believe it because I can see. I have eyes.
Because it gives them a reason to hate Jewish people. The Jewish people spit on Christians and they hate Christians and they're bombing churches and they're blah, blah, blah. It's all they hear. And it's
some of those things are objectively true.
So constant. So the videos of Hamas stealing the aid, for example, that doesn't get shared. They'll see that, oh yeah, that's AI. But all this other nonsense.
Who the fuck said anything about it being AI? Hamas is all right. Why is there aid in the first place? Why is aid necessary? Any clue? Any ideas, Greg, you want to give me? It's because Israel has completely demolished large sections of Gaza, and it's just destroyed. There wouldn't be aid necessary if they hadn't destroyed it in the first place. It's horrifying.
Apparently is not AI, and people just want to believe it because the Jewish people for 4,000 years have always been the scapegoat of history.
That's fair enough.
Everybody wants to use them as the bad guys. You're the bad guys, you're the bad guys, you're the bad guys. And here's what I tell people. You take the Red Sea crossing, you take manna from heaven, you take any miracle in the Bible just about that you want to. The biggest miracle in the entire world is the fact that the Jewish people still exist. They have been the most hated, the most misunderstood, the most judged, criticized, and persecuted people on the planet. And what do? They flourish. Having children like rabbits, right? They flourish. And all over the world, you still have this small group of people that are still the sons and daughters and in the covenant promise of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And the devil cannot stop them, no matter what he does. No matter how many Hitlers, no matter how many Hamans, it doesn't matter. God always has a Esther. God always has a Daniel, a Shadrach, a Meshach, and Abednego. He always has a Cyrus, right? He always has somebody that's going to come to the aid of the Jewish people. Always.
How many people do your believers think that the Israeli nation is about? Like, how many millions do they think?
There are like 2 or 3 million Jews in Israel, I believe.
Most people would have no idea. That they wouldn't understand the population, or would they understand the population of the world of how many Jewish people?
Yeah.
It's very, very small subset of the population. Oh, it's 18.7 million, apparently. 18 to 20 million. For some reason, I thought it was a lot lower.
I think most people would think, oh, they're just going to overrun the entire world. I'm like, no, it's a very
Wait, who thinks Jews are going to overrun the world exactly?
Minute population of people. It's not very big. We're talking like maybe 16 million people, on a good day.
On a good day.
And 15 too, something like that. And they're thinking there's hundreds of millions. Whereas if you look at the genealogical record, you're probably from Abraham to you sitting here, maybe 100 million Jews in the history of the entire world, probably, for
maybe
the most part, give or take.
Yeah.
And they're thinking that there are these billions and billions. That's just not.
Wait, who thinks there are billions of Jews? Who the fuck are you talking about right now?
Small little group of people, little bitty, tiny state the size of New Jersey. And people have this skewed idea that you are just the barbarians that are going to overtake the world. And they only believe that because somebody told them to believe that. It's the only reason.
I'm not sure who he's referring to. I mean, I guess this could be considered like a Nazi belief that somebody, some Nazi is spreading, but okay.
I think that people talk enough about the Muslim brothers in America, the Muslim brothers in Europe, like those jihadists.
Right.
Like Muslim brothers, I mean Hamas.
Right.
Hamas is part of a larger Islamic movement, which is called the...
Wait, is he implying that all Muslims are Hamas? It feels like that's what he's trying to say.
Muslim Brothers that was founded in Egypt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, there's a movement right now in America from those of us that are very politically conservative. The American government needs to consider the Muslim Brotherhood an absolute terrorist organization. And the fact that they don't is very telling. They need to say something.
because it's irrelevant, because nobody's paying any attention to the fucking Muslim Brotherhood in the United States.
Think about that. Europe's finding out very, very quickly. I mean, Europe is being completely overrun. So
this is psychotic, dude. I actually live in a majority Muslim town. Well, maybe not majority, but it's a lot of Muslims around. And you know what? They all mind their own business, do their own thing, live their lives. They don't bother me. I don't bother them. You know, we find each other in need. We help each other sometimes. Need to borrow a cup of sugar or something. I'm sure I could go across and get some sugar. I don't like the fact that their women have to wear hijabs, or not even hijabs, I'm sorry, niqabs. They wear the full outfit that cover their face and everything here. I don't like that at all. But you know what? It's their freedom to do whatever the fuck they want. So, okay, we don't bother each other. Greg Locke doesn't seem to be able to comprehend that concept of just leaving people alone, letting them live their own lives.
So the people that would, for example, go to, our church where I minister, where I lead, they would all understand the issues. We have a large congregation and a very large following, so they would understand where we are with the terrorist understanding and the difference between, Israel and Islam. But for the most part, people are just accepting it. Oh, yeah, they're just family. Let them believe what they want to. And that's how they reproduce so rapidly, and that's how they overtake a civilization.
Jesus, dude. He's talking about Muslims reproducing to overtake an area. This is part of great replacement conspiracy theory, where they believe that this X group is trying to basically take everything over, and it varies from culture to culture. In Britain, it's Muslims. Apparently with Greg Locke, it's Muslims. It's also immigrants in the United States. They're trying to reproduce their way into blah, 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 whatever. It's all nonsense, all of it, all the way down. This is not how anything has ever worked.
Speaking at a church in London not long ago, London has fallen. I mean, Paris has fallen. I mean, places in Germany, we were just there a minute. It's falling to Islam. And
what an absolutely psychotic, insane, ridiculous, broken thing to say. Dude, I gotta write this down. I gotta take note and grab this clip. This is 3110. Islam is taking over Europe. Britain has fallen.
America is getting very, very close. There are places in Texas, there's places in Dearborn, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota that are nearly fully Islamic. They're trying to
Where? Can you give me a name? Anything at all? Can you give me anything? Seriously, where is his head that he believes this?
All of their Sharia law, and people are like, well, that'll never happen. No, it is happening.
No, it's not.
Right before our very eyes, it's happening. And the enemy of the world is Islam. 1,000%. And people are like, oh, you're a pastor. You shouldn't talk that way.
Who the fuck says pastors shouldn't criticize Islam? I've literally never heard that in my entire life from any single person ever.
Because I'm a pastor, I need to talk that way because it is a glaring difference. It's a glaring difference. Nowhere in the Bible does it say, Abraham, Ishmael, and Jacob. It's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And
he says that because Ishmael is like the main character in Islam. Abraham's son Ishmael is like the father to the line of whatever.
And because they were, if you will, piggybacked in the covenant, these people are hell-bent on destroying the Jewish people and anybody that will stand with them. So we've given Islam a pass. We've been, oh, it's okay. They're good people. They believe some strange stuff. No. I'm telling you, they're trained for one thing: kill Jews and anybody that likes them.
This is disgusting, dude. This is an us versus them mentality that is disturbing to watch unfold.
And that's very bold for me to say those things, but it's the facts.
No, it's not bold. It's just a flat out lie.
Islam is not our friend, and it never will be our friend, no matter how many peace accords they try to sign.
Do you see any proceedings towards seeing those Muslim brothers as an enemy, as a terror group, like from the American government?
Yeah, I do. I think there is a little bit of, sunshine on the horizon. Trump understands it. He knows it. I have the privilege to be in like an evangelical faith advisory board, for Trump and for his people. And so, I go to D.C. quite a bit and going to be going quite a bit more even to, lobby and speak on behalf of Israel. And so I think they see it. Matter of fact, I know they see it. but I think they feel like their hands are tied. Sometimes they play these political games. Well, we just have to, we have to be nice to them. Well, being nice to them.
No, you don't need to be nice to them. You need to accept that there are people of all different types and faiths and beliefs and experiences and whatevers in the world. And we need to live together. We need to work together, cooperate with each other, and all that stuff. I think that's what everybody is saying. In a democracy, everybody should have the right to like operate and live life and do their thing or whatever. Your right to swing your fist ends at the tip of my nose, that whole thing.
Turns your land into Iran. You look at Iran in the 70s before the Islamic regime came in, and I mean, ladies didn't have to be all covered up.
Yeah, absolutely. The regime in Iran, the dictatorship, has made a complete mess out of everything. 100%. Dictatorships have a tendency to do that, which is why I'm like really wondering, like, what is it that brought Greg Locke to the point that he's okay with a dictatorship? In fact, wants one in the United States. What brought him there? After watching how dictatorships unfold in other countries, presumably. I mean, I assume he's seen that.
Wasn't this oppression and kids are playing in the street and there's, economic value, and now it's just an Islamic regime. It's like a concentration camp. It's horrible to see that. And that's what's happening in many places in America and around the world. And so we want to play nice, but you can't play nice with people that are born to kill you. You can't play.
Muslims are not born to kill anybody. They're born. They're human beings like everybody else. What went wrong in your head, Greg?
Nice with people like that.
Do you think that the American Constitution will, I don't know, but maybe it will be something to block the way your efforts to fight the Muslim brothers?
Well, what people don't understand is, everybody wants to say, we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of religion. We do, and thank God for it, because it's benefited me being so bold. But we also have some framework in the Constitution that says that there is limits to freedom of religion, and that limits of the freedom of religion would be any organization that has a nefarious mindset towards America, towards those freedoms.
Wait, what? Who the fuck told you that? Any organization that is oppositional to America does not have freedom? Is that what he just said?
And so obviously you have people that have a terrorist mindset, and so they can talk about Allah and they can pray there 5 times a day with their, loud speakers going through all the world. But at the end of the day, they have a nefarious plan to overtake the government. So that's not freedom of religion.
Who the fuck has this plan to take over the government other than Christian nationalists?
That's given them freedom to build terrorist networks in the mask of religion, if that makes sense. So
listen to Greg Locke, of all people, saying this. He thinks that people are trying to take over the U.S. government in the name of religion, and those people are terrorists. The irony.
If somebody really wants to stand up and push the issue, we could use the Constitution and run them all out. But I'm not the president. So.
You're saying that the Constitution is something for your side, not something that maybe can be a limitation towards effective measurements.
I think it'd be if they would use it properly, it could be a limitation to say, look, Islam, no, you're not welcome here. You're not welcome to practice this, because ultimately it's not about Allah. Ultimately, it's about your complete, utter takeover and destruction of our government, because that's what
this is psychotic.
What they want.
I really like the way Dennis Prager and Yoram Hazony are explaining the U.S. Constitution and the old Republic.
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude! This is a psychotic thing to say.
Which they say it wasn't like Thomas Jefferson once said, like there is a wall between religion and state, between church.
Yeah, separation of church and state. And it wasn't Thomas Jefferson that said that. It was the fucking Constitution. It's called the Establishment Clause. It's literally the first sentence of the First Amendment of the Constitution that says that. Well, all right, let me rephrase. Let me clarify. The Constitution says government shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or restriction thereof, or whatever other, I don't even remember the exact words, something like that. And Thomas Jefferson clarified that position by explaining that there is a wall of separation between church and state. That's what that means. It's like saying gun rights are not in the Constitution. The words gun rights are not there. But the concept of gun rights is in the Constitution in the Second Amendment.
Right.
There wasn't a wall.
No.
American was a Christian state.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a secular, it wasn't just, human
Yes, it was.
rights state.
No, not at all.
How do you explain?
It wasn't just built on morality. It really was built on Judeo-Christian values. And
No, it wasn't built on morality at all. The United States was built on the concept that your right to swing your fist ends at the tip of my nose. That's what it was built on. These people are just revisionist. You know that the term, all right, there's this dude named David Irving, who was a Holocaust denier in the 70s and 80s and earlier even, wrote books about Goring that like denied his atrocities and stuff like that. And he coined the term revisionist because he felt that the term Holocaust denier was derogatory and pejorative. So he preferred to use the term revisionist instead. So calling somebody a revisionist, a Holocaust revisionist, bothers me a lot. I don't like that. They're not revisionists, they're deniers. They're history deniers.
so when they talk about the separation of church and state, first of all, that's not in the Constitution or in any of the amendments or any of those things. The Bill of Rights, what that is, it was a handwritten letter that was written basically to keep these.
It was written to clarify what the First Amendment meant, and then it went through the courts, and the courts validated that interpretation. So gun rights are not in the Constitution. Separation of church and state is not in the Constitution. But if we're looking at the actual logical concepts in there, they're both there, obviously.
States from all having to be like the same denomination, the same sect of a certain group or religion and a belief system. And so separation of church and state was never, ever to keep religion or keep the church out of government. It was to keep the
Yes, it was.
government out of the church. It was to keep the government out of our pockets.
No, it wasn't. There was a separation of church and state intentionally set up to prevent nutcases like this fucking asshole from taking control of everything.
As believers, as people that do have a freedom of religion. And so people get it skewed. So they say all the time, oh, you're a pastor, you shouldn't talk about politics. And I tell them, the reason your church is in a mess is because your pastor refuses to preach about politics. We have to stand up and we have to push back against the establishment and against the system. Because if we don't, we're going to continue to have these conversations for another 50 years.
You know that in Germany during World War II era, the Nazi era, Hitler actually he claims to have banned the church from talking politics, but he didn't. He mandated that they talk about politics. He just mandated that they talk about politics in a way that he liked. And if they talked about politics in a way that Hitler did not like, then they paid the price for it. When the Allies came back in, the Allies banned them from talking about politics from the pulpit because the church has a lot of sway. They have a lot of control over society. And if they wanted to, the church could completely change the way that everything operates. And that's a recipe for disaster. That's why religions are generally discouraged from talking politics, because it erodes democracy when they do.
Actually, Prager and Chazoni...
Didn't the Catholic Church actually support Hitler at one point? Yes, they did. July 20th, 1933, my birthday. They signed the Reichskonkordat, which is basically it's a treaty. Concordats are treaties. They exist today. There are a lot of concordats that exist with a billion different groups and stuff. And the Reichskonkordat mandated that the Catholic people, like the Catholic priests, bishops, and everybody all along the chain, it mandated that they all swear an oath of loyalty to Hitler. And they did. In exchange, they were allowed to control the education system. They were allowed to, basically, Germany banned people from wearing priest clothing unless they had official permission to from the Catholic Church, things like that. Concordats are inherently bad because it's a permanent treaty with a country or an organization or whatever that does not go away, and it's usually the result of a temporary problem. There's a famine in the Congo, for example. The Catholic Church agrees to provide food aid under the condition that they're allowed to control the school system. And to ban abortion and whatever other thing. That famine is solved by the Catholic Church, comes to an end. It's done. And everybody is prospering now, and they're stuck with the Catholic Church forever. That's the danger of concordats. And the Catholic Church signed that concordat with Hitler, with Germany. And Germany, the Catholics learned the hard way that dictatorships can't be trusted because they will always do the thing that is most beneficial to them. And ever since World War II, Catholics have supported democracies because they can trust them to hold to their word more closely. Oh, shoot, I didn't know I could take Tulin here. Interesting. So anyway, the Catholic Church learned the hard way that supporting dictatorships is not good. It does not help. It's a bad thing generally. But they do anyway now. Eventually, when the Reich started pushing on the Concordat and reinterpreting it to be more favorable to them, reinterpreting the vague language, the Catholic Church started pushing back a little bit, like the Vatican did, the Pope at the time, and Hitler started accusing the bishops and stuff and the priests of immorality, specifically accusing them of taking advantage of children, even those who had not done that. I mean, we can see the exact same thing right now with Trump accusing people of mortgage fraud or whatever when they didn't commit mortgage fraud. They didn't do any of that. It's politically motivated bullshit. It's the exact same thing. So anyway, yeah, the Catholic Church did support Hitler early on and for a very long time. Until I think 1935, things started getting a little bit tense between them. 34, 35. And then around 1936 and 37, they came up with new agreements and kind of reestablished their existing relationship. After the Pope died, Pope Pius XI, in 1939, Pacelli became Pope Pius XII. February 10th, 1939, Pius XI died. Dude's name was Achille Ratti, I think. He died before he had an opportunity to basically denounce and condemn what the Nazi government was going to do. And everybody knew that was about to happen, that condemnation. He died the day before he could do the speech. There's no conspiracy. People thought there might have been at the time, but he was just old. Anyway, Pacelli took control shortly after the Pope died, and he became Pius XII and was much more friendly to Hitler at that point. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of the I don't know what you call it, the chain of events that took place. There was something else I was trying to remember. Was there something else I wanted to mention about this? After Pius XII became Pope in 39, he met with the von Hessen family, Philip von Hessen, which is like a prince. He met with him in an apartment building, super secret shit. This didn't come out until 2008, I think, when the Vatican released records about it. And the Pope basically said, we will be the best friends that Germany has ever had. We love Germans. We love Hitler. We'll support him completely as long as the political persecution stops. It didn't really stop. It continued on, and Pacelli was kind of pushed into a corner and forced to effectively openly oppose Hitler to some degree with a little bit of time. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of how things played out.
We're going to continue to have these conversations for another 50 years.
Actually, pregnant.
Oh, and one more thing. I'm sorry. And there were a lot of Catholic priests that fully supported Hitler. Fully. There was one Catholic priest in Budapest who would go around with Nazi death squads, and when they leveled their guns at groups of Jews, he would say, "In the name of Christ, fire," as they unloaded on people. So lots of Catholic priests supported Hitler and the Nazi cause.
If we don't, we're going to continue to have these conversations for another 50 years.
Actually, Prager and Chazoni, I think that the best point and the point that you must change in America is there was the Supreme Court decision in the 60s. I don't remember its name, but it says that you can't. It's not valid by the Constitution to teach younger generation in public schools the Bible.
Right.
And
you can't. No, that's not accurate. You cannot teach the Bible as fact in public schools, and you can't use it as a teaching material in public schools. That's what it is.
It's just nonsense.
Right. It is. And I think they've been in some repealing of that. You know, of course, politically, we had against
You can't repeal a Supreme Court case.
Preachers something called the Johnson Amendment, which, you know, if you spoke about a candidate or if you spoke out about politics, they would take your tax exempt status and all.
No, it's if you supported a candidate for public office from the pulpit, then you could lose your tax exempt status. Literally everything else is off limits. Or I'm sorry, everything else is fair game.
All of this. But they just recently repealed that. Trump overrode that in his first.
No, they didn't repeal it. Trump just said, I'm not enforcing it. You can't repeal IRS tax code in that way.
Term, but then he came and completely eradicated it in his second term. So now pastors can say what they want to. But the interesting thing is, I've been saying this stuff since 13, 14, 2015. I've been saying, you know, vote for Trump, vote for the right people, you know, speaking about Israel, speaking about all the political issues. You know, we didn't close our church during COVID. We kept our service. We never closed one time.
Wow, amazing.
We defied all that. We didn't do masks. We defied all of the odds and grew.
Yeah. And why? Why did you do that? Like, what was your goal in the end? What was the point? Seriously.
By thousands. And so I've always been known in America and now much around the world because of shows like this for kind of my, not just activism, but my boldness. You know, I'm just very.
Being a fucking asshole. Yeah. You have been really well known for that. Good job.
Very black and white. It's just the way I see it. It's what the Bible says, and I'm not going to compromise. And so I think that's what makes me fit well, because if I'm correct, you can correct me on this. What I'm finding, the more I come to Israel and the more I meet with people like yourself and again, Gilad and other, you know, type of political and religious people, they say to me, the reason we like you is because you say what Jewish people are thinking, but they just won't quite say it for fear of the repercussions, right? I just see it for what it is.
Well, I mean, this dude just came out and said it, didn't he? That we want a genocide. He said, we need to go in and just do it, just kill a bunch of people. He said that earlier, right? So,
you know, I grew up secular. So people that like in Israel that grew up secular, they feel like I feel that the state is mine.
Yeah,
it's not someone else's. It's not that like I'm kind of an Israeli, but I'm also religious, so I have to be nice. You know, there is this term in Israeli in Jewish law which is called Kiddush Hashem.
Okay.
Kiddush Hashem. You must sanctify the Lord by your actions. So if I talk too boldly, maybe I'm not sanctifying the Lord. Yeah. So I'm all really tired up from those this kind of thinking.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Wow. So this guy is non-religious. He is a non-religious Jewish person who I suppose is ready to just like burn everything to the ground, doesn't give a fuck about anything or anybody. Am I interpreting this correctly? He's absolutely fucking brain broken and believes that like he's special in some way, I suppose.
What you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm not. You're not saying what I'm thinking.
Right.
I'm saying what should be said in order to defend Israel, in order to make my family prosper and live here for many years.
Yeah.
And not to be slaughtered like in October 7th.
Yeah.
And so more power for you.
Yeah.
Greg Locke, thank you for coming here.
Oh, man, this has been great.
And keep your great work.
Thank you so much, man.
Jesus Christ, that is absolutely fucking disgusting and psychotic, seriously. This whole interview was insane and horrific and disgusting and psychotic. I'm sure I could come up with a few more adjectives for it. Like, that is wild. Anyway, yeah, tell me what you think about it in the comments. Disgusting.